Hi, I'm Natalie from Kaikata Estates, and I'm here today with Faith from My Country Garden. There's a good chance that we'll be spending our summer holidays in our gardens this year. So Faith has some wonderful tips for how to create a beautiful and relaxing space for us to enjoy our summer holidays in. Hi, Faith.
Hi, Natalie. Nice to be doing this call with you.
Thank you. Well, thanks for taking the time. And look at the gorgeous view that we have behind you there. Beautiful blue skies and a beautiful garden. So obviously this is something
I'm sat in a shrub.
Well, this is obviously something that you're quite passionate about personally as well, because your own garden is your showpiece effectively, isn't it? And you've got some lovely tips for creating a relatively low maintenance garden for people who are looking to do a bit of sprucing.
So I actually make sure that my garden itself is low maintenance, because I really just don't have the time, because I'm too busy working on other people's gardens, to actually spend hours and hours and hours on my own. So despite the fact that it's about 4 acres in size, I personally spend about 2 to 4 hours max a week doing the work in it, normally with a cup of coffee or possibly a glass of wine in my hands, because it has to fit in around my lifestyle. There are some people whose garden is their love and their hobby and their passion, and they're quite happy to spend hours and days and weeks of time in it. But for the majority of us, the garden has to fit around the rest of your life, but that doesn't mean it can't be beautiful. So I'm very, very passionate about ensuring that people have access to the knowledge that helps them make the right choices. Because if you choose the right plant for the right place, it's easy. The plant just wants to grow. That's all it wants to do. And so as long as you've chosen the right plant for the right place, then actually your job is pretty easy. You can get it wrong if you go to a garden centre and you think, oh, my garden looks dull, I'll take this trolley around. You spend £150 on a bunch of plants, you stick them in the soil. Some of them grow wider than you thought, some of them grow taller, some of them don't grow at all. But again, you sort of have gone there and just bought what looks pretty in the garden centre, which, at the end of the day, garden centres just want to sell you plants. They don't want to sell you the right plant, they want to send you any plant. And so there definitely is benefit of sort of going armed with a bit of education to help you. And I always recommend to clients that, for ease, you choose a couple of shrubs that look good at different times of the year. So, this time of year, the viburnum opulus roseum, sometimes known as the snowball tree, looks absolutely fabulous. And I've done nothing to it, and it looks glorious. I will this year probably prune it, which sounds frightening, but a shrub like the viburnum, it doesn't care. It's so tolerant of pruning that I could almost do it, as I said, with a glass of wine in my hand, paying very little attention to it. And yet, as you get later into the year, you may want to move on to something like some of the hydrangeas. Again, there's a hydrangea Annabelle or a hydrangea Limelight that, again, just look fabulous. And these are not your old granny's hydrangeas, the mop heads that you might sit there in the, some are blue and some are pink, depending on which soil you've got. These are completely different. Hydrangea is a huge range of different types. So again, it's just about choosing the right one. And if you infill with some hardy perennials, so the key is in the title, the word title perennial means it comes back year and year. Typically, most perennials will last between 5 to 10 years easily in the soil with very little maintenance. You've got a low maintenance garden. And most of these perennials, you can find some perennials that are good in the spring, some in the summer, some in the autumn. And if you get a mix of all of them, then you'll have good colour throughout your garden all year round. Well, maybe not winter, but from about March to November, which is enough for most of us to be sitting outside.
Okay, so where would people find the information on which ones to put where? You mentioned it's all about the right spot. So the plants that you've mentioned here, would they go anywhere in a garden, or do they need a particularly sunny spot or shade?
The plants that I've mentioned there will go anywhere. I mean, I've got those exact plants that I'm talking about in my borders, which are in full sun all day. And I've also got the same plants in full shade, in the shade of my house. And they both look fabulous. So I do not recommend plants to clients that are tricky or difficult. They're what I call diva plants. If they need a lot of time and attention, not for me. not for me, haven't got the time, haven't got the energy. You know, obviously if a client turns around and says, I have to have this particular Daphne because it was my granny's favorite, then, you know, I'll help them to have it and try and grow it. But on most cases, as soon as somebody says that, I'm like, no, I struggle to keep it alive. And if I struggle to keep it alive, chances are you won't. And that's what makes for a bad experience with plants. You know, so many people come to me and say, oh, I've got brown fingers, everything I buy dies and I don't know what I'm doing. I had a client who took me and said, I just can't grow lavenders. And lavender is one of the plants I recommend because it's pretty tolerant. And actually, when it dies back a little bit, it's quite obvious which bits you prune out because they're the dead twiggy bits. And so I was like, well, what? Why? Show me where you put your lavenders. And she walked me into this deep shaded sort of woodland bit. And there were these 8 lavenders looking absolutely sick as hell. And I said to her, okay, let's have a think. Where do lavenders grow? You know, where do you think of when you think of lavenders? And she went, Provence, you know, Italy, Spain. I'm like, okay, what sort of conditions do you have there? And she went, hot and sunny. And I went, yeah, hot and sunny. So again, you know, one of the tips I think of, if you think of a plant like a lavender or a rosemary or a certain type of you know, plant, and you think that where it is you've seen it most or it grows naturally, that will give you an idea whether it's sort of a cold, wet, dark, or, you know, bright sun. So aces that people love for color, a lot of the aces that people like are the Japanese aces. Now Japanese aces are not great in full sun. And again, if you think of the Japanese climate, you know, it's not known for its hot, dry, you know, summers. It tends to be a lot cooler. So again, you know, there are hints in when you think about where they're from, and even in their names. So if something is, you know, something japonica, Latin, but japonica means from Japan. So again, you know, there are little clues. But if you want to do a bit more research and you don't want to speak to a garden designer or a planting designer, definitely the RHS website is a good place to go. But also there's a great website called Shoot. I think it's shootgardening.com, but you know, double check on that. And it was designed specifically for what I call hobbyist gardeners. And in fact, you know, the lady who set it up was is known for saying, I kept buying lots of plants and I had no idea what I was doing. And that's why, you know, it allows you as well to search. You know, you can search, you can say woodland, shade, you know, wet all the time, and it will come up with a suggested list of plants. So that's also a helpful resource.
Brilliant, thank you. That all makes more sense than anything I've ever heard before, actually, about gardening. The other thing I know, usually in a normal world, you run herb workshops, so to teach people about, you know, how to plant things, which to plant, and how you can use them. In the absence of that, for somebody looking to start their own herb garden to supplement their home cooking that we're all doing a lot more of at the moment, what sort of herbs would you recommend that people can plant, or foods, or plants rather, that we could use in food?
There are definitely some great things for you to be able to grow now. And I would say always grow what you like to eat. You know, I started thinking, oh, I must grow potatoes because my granddad grew potatoes. I grew potatoes and I thought, I don't really eat potatoes. I'm not sure what that was all about, you know, and I did the same with courgette and squash, you know, and I said, well, this is ridiculous. I've got kids, you know, they're 10 and 13. What do they, you know, obviously they've grown up, what do they like to eat? So it's strawberries, it's blueberries, it's raspberries, you know, it's then peas, it's sweet corn, and all of these things are easy to grow, you know, and you can add them. And actually the difference, if you grow them at home, you know where they're from, you know the food miles are low, hopefully you know they're organic because you haven't put any nasties in the soil. And then you can take it a bit further and you can have growing your own mint, growing your own chamomile, growing your own nasturtiums or calendula, which people may know as pot marigolds. Again, easy. And all of those, you know, with chamomile and mint, you can make your own fresh teas. You can have your own mint in your Pimm's, frankly. You know, when I make a Pimm's, it's with the strawberries and the cucumber and the mint that I've grown. So I try and convince myself it's healthy. I'm not quite sure on that. But, you know, it makes a difference. And things like calendula, the petals you can eat, they have a slightly citrus tang. You can stick them on a salad, you can stick them over a cake. And actually they're very good for your skin. They have a lot of the omega oils in them. And so, being able to take those in is fantastic. And the same with something like nasturtium. If you like rocket, if you like or the mizuna, the slightly peppery salads, nasturtium leaves are slightly peppery. So again, particularly the young leaves, grow a couple of nasturtiums and put the young leaves and put them in your salad. And something that's great with both calendula and nasturtium is they're annuals. So actually, if you pick the leaves and the flowers, they'll just put on more till about October. So it's sort of like a self-fulfilling little a supply that you have. And I was talking to you earlier and saying how easy it was, and you said, oh, what about all the equipment you need? And then I was trying to show you what I have. This is what I use with my kids, and I hope this comes out on the video. But I'm sure we're all used to these wonderful plastic tubs that you get. Mainly, if you buy strawberries or blueberries or raspberries or tomatoes, from frankly anywhere, they come in these tubs that have these holes in them, which are fantastic. So you take one of these, you put a bit of soil. If you can get compost, fantastic. If you can't, so hey ho, just use a bit of soil, that you find in your garden. And you can, I've got here, what would I grow in here to start off? I've got melon seeds. It's actually warm enough now to grow melons here, but really easy, sweet corn or peas. You can get these sorts of things fairly easily. I know they're a little bit in short supply because the garden centres are shut, but, my tip is soak them for half an hour before you plant them because they look a little bit dried and pathetic. So you put them in here with your soil, and then you use one of these from maybe from some mince or some bits of chicken that you've washed out and cleaned. This one doesn't have holes. You stick it on top, and there's your mini greenhouse. You don't need to have a fancy bit. You've got a little one here. And, if it's tiny, get your kids to grow microherbs or basil or, your nasturtiums. You can grow anything in here. And you don't even need fancy plant labels. Lollipop sticks. Write the name on them. There you go, little greenhouse. So even if you haven't got much of green space and you think, oh, well, I'll forget what I've planted, do this and stick them behind the kitchen sink because it will remind you to water them, and that's the biggest thing with growing herbs or growing veg is, they need a little bit of misting, most days. You can, if you forget the odd day, it's not a disaster, but they do need a mist of water. But it does make it, so easy and so rewarding, and particularly if you've got kids, being able to do something where they can see what comes from a tiny little seed, it actually brings to me a lot of hope. There is something about seeing a seed put its leaves up and start growing that is so life affirming. It's just marvelous. And if you make mistakes, if they don't grow, it doesn't matter. I can have a batch of peas that I've sown and none of them can germinate. It's not that I'm a bad gardener, it's just that those seeds didn't feel the need to grow at that point. So, same with most things. Don't berate yourself about the things that go wrong. Every time something goes wrong with one of your seeds or plants, make a note in a notebook not to buy it again. And that's exactly what I do. Even the tulips that are just going over, I've gone around the garden with my notebook saying, I bought 50 of this tulip and 30 flowered. I'd give that a go again. I bought 50 of this tulip, 2 flowered, never buy again. I bought 50 of this and 45 flowered. Yep, that's a certainty. So, even the most experienced gardeners, at some point, you can only do so much. It's, and it's not that you are green or brown fingered. Most of it is the difference in knowledge.
Yeah, that's really good advice, because I've had a lot of people saying that, everything that they attempt to grow dies. So I think you've given hope to a lot of people there, and certainly in terms of the maintenance of it at the moment, with us being at home so much, it's of course easier to remember to water plants because we're not rushing out to the office every day, or indeed abroad on holiday. So the one thing I know you mentioned earlier was that for anybody who's looking to plant some herb gardens or edible leaves that they could use in salads and things, you've got a sale going on in aid of Naomi House. So this is, I believe it's 4 young plants.
Yeah, so in amongst the other things that I do, I'm chair of Naomi House and Jack's Place, which is a children's hospice and respite centre based just north of Winchester. And I've been involved with them for over 7 years now. And I was trying to bring together 2 or 3 strands. One is that, for most charities, fundraising is just fallen through the floor. So, that's a big issue. Whether it be vegetable plants, or, you know, some strawberry plants, or, you know, potentially some flowering plants, because I've got some of those, you know, sort of delphiniums and different types of flowering plants, echinaceas, rudbeckias, all these sort of things, that I would start selling them in aid of Naomi House, where all the profits go to that charity. So they started off, I was doing it at sort of, they're the 9 centimetre pots that you normally see, you know, tomato plants, whatever, in garden centres. They're £3 each, but if you buy 4, then you get 4 for £10. So if somebody wants to start off a little herb garden, you know, there you go. You could quite easily have, you know, a mint plant, a chamomile plant, a nasturtium, and a sweet pea, or a regular pea, or a sweet corn plant, or a tomato, you know, any of those sorts of things, and you could basically grow your own salad. Is the idea. So, you know, it's and maybe I should do that. Maybe I should start little pots with salad leaves. Salad leaves actually tend to need a little bit more space because they like bulking out, but if you eat the leaves when they're young, then you can get away with it. So we don't have to maintain all the lovely social distancing, and you know, they can pick up their little mini garden, and, you know, start enjoying, you know, what nature has to give us.
Sounds like the perfect starter kit. Well, thank you so much. I think one other thing I wanted to mention is, usually, as well as maintaining 4 acres of beautiful garden, you do provide a garden design service, including planting things, which at the minute is taking a bit of a back seat. But for anybody who was looking for some advice on a future project, or even something they can run now, but with your consultancy, I believe you are offering that service on a remote basis.
Yes, it's definitely more challenging. It's not the way I sort of was trained to work or imagine. You normally go and see somebody's house and garden and get a sense of the place and, you know, the feeling and the vibe. However, you know, with the wonders of iPhones, everyone can take photos or a video. And actually what I'm getting a lot of is people saying, I am spending more time in my garden. I've been staring at this border for the last 4 years and I've never got round to do anything with it. And I'm now sick of staring at it, frankly. And so, you know, they send me, as I said, a picture, a couple of videos, those sorts of things. And they'll have to test the soil, which is kind of fun. It's like a mini chemistry experiment. You can buy the kits off Amazon and you can, you know, get back to the old litmus paper that we probably remember from chemistry at school a million years ago. And then we work up a planting plan, you know, and I can still source not just the mini plants that I'm talking about selling for in aid of Naomi House, but I can source everything up to, for one client recently, you know, 8 trees that are 2 meters high, you know, so, you know, and I then often in the pre-lockdown world, I would come and planted them, but I will send them, you know, you full planting instructions and you can have fun getting your hands mucky, you know, so I think that has been popular, and I'm still, you know, pleased to be able to help people who need, you know, got a slightly bigger area and who need a bit of more of a handhold or have a particular requirement. You know, I want this garden to look great in July because that's when my birthday is and I have a party every year, and yet it always looks rubbish in July, you know, so anything like that, it's you know, more than happy to work to whatever remit people want.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for your time today, Faith. And Faith's details will be coming up in just a second. If you'd like to contact her about a consultation for your garden or to order any of these plants where the profits are going to Naomi House. I hope everybody creates a beautiful garden for their summer holidays this year.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks so much, Faith.
That's all right. Lovely to speak to you, Natalie. Take care.
Bye.